Hey everybody, welcome to Season 6, Episode 10's review for What the Flick of Game of Thrones. That's The Winds of Winter with Cenk Uygur, Barrett, Anna, and myself. Big episode, big in length, big in scope, big in consequences, 82 minutes long. Maybe the longest episode. But anyway, we're going to go through, as we always do, but feel free to give your immediate impressions. I watched your video that you live streamed already.
Yeah, so that's on facebook.com/whattheflick. Okay, let me just start off the proceedings. There's a lot to talk about, but before I get into any of the specifics, one of the best things I have ever seen.
Yeah,
Yes.
it really was.
Yes.
I'm not kidding. As good as any great movie I've ever seen.
He's seen the birth of 2 children.
Yeah.
Actually, that's way messier than anything
It
else.
is, trust me. That's
like a
different
liver
Game of
transplant.
Thrones. There's also blood and gore and all that. But so it was so fucking satisfying. I mean, it was one moment after another of like, yes! And I literally would shout out in my living room as my wife is like sitting next to me. She'd be like, oh my God, what happened? I'm like, he's the king of the North. What do you mean what happened?
God.
Yes.
There were moments, the little moments that we're going to talk about, but like we're going to get to the Arya thing. Like that would be, for me, enough for an episode to be good. That
know.
little scene.
Yeah.
And that's just one quick little thing they fit in. One little tiny thing.
So episode 10, historically, in the other 5 seasons, has been kind of
Denouement.
epilogue. You know, we're coming down from the climax. It's not the most important one. 9 is, 8 is,
Right.
etc.
The cigarette of post-coital Game of Thrones watching.
Right. Not this time, if that's what you were going for. Good
God.
Then you've come to the wrong place.
Yeah.
And so this was almost like it obviously wasn't. There's a lot of great things that are coming up, and they put hints of it into this and the next season and stuff. But if this was the final episode of the whole series, you would feel like, oh, okay, good. I got what I came for, right? I came and saw. Right?
Yeah.
And then once I saw it, I came again.
Right.
I knew it was going to be a good episode when very early on in this mega episode, it was longer than usual, you had like Cersei Lannister getting her revenge, right? And I'm like, wait, this is too early on. That means that there's more good stuff coming, right? And how
Come and
good
see.
could it possibly be?
Oh,
and it
come
just
and
kept
see.
getting better and better. So it was honestly my favorite episode of all time when it comes to Game of Thrones.
Really?
Well, so why don't we jump into that first episode?
Sure.
So we had a very long extended scene in King's Landing, and I think it was immediately apparent, 30 seconds in, they've never had this tone, this pace, the way it was shot.
Yes.
Yeah.
Everything was very pulled back and zoomed out and removed and silent, so silent. And eventually, I mean, to just skip ahead, with Tommen's scene where he finally jumps out of the window, the way they shot it, it's not about Tommen, it's about the window. They stay in the window, he walks off frame, he walks back on, he jumps. It was so beautiful and austere. It was the winter of directing, basically.
It was, yeah, this was a very...
That's
this
a good
was-
way of putting it.
It was
Okay.
so, yeah, because it's one of those things where it's like old Shakespeare scripts would just have like, they fight Tybalt Falls, but those are the most epic scenes in Shakespeare. Some of them are the fight scenes where the script literally just says like, they fight, this guy dies. And that's kind of what this was. That in the script it might have a lot of direction about we're focused on the window or whatever, but the ability for a director to step in and be like, okay, this is where Tommen jumps out the window, but I'm going to set this up in a very visual way. The whole everyone getting ready and putting on what they're supposed to do. I think that there was so much Shakespeare in this frickin' episode.
Yeah.
It was just slathered. Like now Cersei's Lady Macbeth and she's unsexed. She's very like this scheming androgynous guy acting figure, and I loved it. I loved it so
I gotta
much.
pause here to say how much I love these reviews, because like I did my quick review and I feel like I covered it, right? Because I love the cool moments and I love the intrigue. Those are my favorite things. And then I come on here And that's such a great point about Shakespeare. And that's such a great point about the directing. I'm like, oh, thanks God we're doing this.
It's so real. It's so real.
Yeah, stylistically, it was so unique from other Game of Thrones episodes, and you could tell right from the very beginning because there was very little dialogue in the beginning, but there was a lot of like classical music, like lots of slow piano, and you're like, damn, shit's going down.
Yeah, it was like a slow procession. It was like a funeral procession.
Yeah.
That's the pace of it. Was like
perfect.
when everyone's walking forward, it's like everyone's in step.
Yeah.
Everybody's getting dressed. These people are moving on. They all are gathered for a ritual.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the ritual slaying.
And by the way, by the end of the episode, almost everyone was in black. So now
Yeah.
winter has arrived, and now we're all knights of, we're,
Right. Except for the Ravens, which are white now.
Do you see what? Ironically,
Yeah.
the
That's a
Ravens
good
are the only
point.
things that are white, but now we're all on the watch, and this is our watch because they're coming.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and what I liked about the first scene is you know that something is going down with the lingering shots of the outfits and the fact that she has totally remade herself.
Yeah.
Kind of like Sansa did at the end of the last season, although it didn't really go anywhere. But then once they get to the actual trial and they have Loras, it kind of reverts back to, oh, okay, they're doing the trial. He's confessing. It's part of the plan. They do the cutting on the head, which is grotesque and everything. And they kind of, I think, fool you into thinking, oh, we're reverting back. And I don't think it's until the mountain stops the king that you know, oh no,
Yes.
we're not going back anywhere.
You're
You're not
absolutely
going
right.
anywhere.
Which is such a testament to how, because I feel like I have post-traumatic stress disorder, this weird Stockholm syndrome, this inability to fully celebrate any victory on the show
Yeah.
because I'm always like looking for the exits to see how I get the fuck out when shit goes down.
Yeah.
And they prime you and they're still able to surprise you, which is such a testament to how well they've done all
That's
this
right.
stuff.
How in the world did we get so surprised by so many things? I mean, we've been discussing it for ad nauseum. I think we're pretty damn good experts on it. But to our credit, also slight to our discredit, because like I want to be surprised, is that once the little kid starts running in the tunnels, I was like, oh right, this is when Matt and John were talking about the wildfire under the city. Like, because I hadn't thought of that. You guys mentioned in one of the reviews. And I'm like, we're under the city. Oh my God, the whole thing's gonna fucking blow.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And by the time he's like,
He's crawling. You can see
like
the
they
lights.
stab,
Yeah.
the kid stabs him and leaves him there. And I'm like, he left him there. Oh, he's gonna see a blow. Right? I got it. And like some things you see a little bit ahead of time when the kid tells the Grand Maester, "Come this way,
Come and see.
come and see." And you're like, that's not gonna end well
Yeah.
for him,
No.
right?
Oh,
but
God.
others were a longer setup. So now let's talk about the payoff. So there's two main things to discuss, in my opinion. One is what Marjorie did, and two is were we happy about it? Okay. So this is one of my points of frustration. Marjorie, you're supposed to be smart. If I was in that situation and I realized something was afoot, I would have been like, oh, I gotta go take a shit.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry.
Nobody.
Queen.
Yeah.
This
Queen
is a
shit.
story I told from an Uber driver who that's what he taught his kids to get out of any conflict. If trouble's about to start, you just tell your homeboys, I gotta go take a shit. Nobody ever tells you don't take a shit.
Like, that's the one
Nobody
thing
wants
everyone identifies with.
Right,
It's
right.
like,
Nobody
yeah.
says, no,
Wants
don't
to
do
keep
that.
talking.
You gotta
Everyone's just, whatever, just go. Nobody wants
I
to
would have
have that
just
conversation.
tapped Loris and be like, hey, Loris, let's go for a walk. Be cool.
Yeah.
Everybody, we got a restroom. We'll be right back. Okay. Don't go tell everybody. They'll tell you not to go.
Right, of
Well,
course.
she has a little bit of empathy. And I think it might be that, or she might think, well, we can't just leave the building with the soldiers there. But important question, because obviously part of the tragedy of her death, and she was maybe the most shocking individual death, although many died there, was that she saw it coming, and she knew, and the High Sparrow didn't realize until the last second. But if, when she realized, she began running and nobody stopped her, would she have survived?
No.
No, she
That-
wouldn't
this
have.
is
No,
the thing.
The minute she was onto it, she had to have walked out, grabbed Loris, walk out of the building immediately. Otherwise, she wouldn't have survived anyway. Because this is not a regular stupid movie where you barely missed the blast.
Right.
At the last
That's right. That's not how it would have worked, right? You had to get a good long head start for that blast not to hit you.
And what's so gratifying is it was hubris that did everybody in, where they all had these awesome plans that have already defeated certain people along the way. So they look at themselves like, I'm the boss. Because the High Sparrow didn't tell Marjorie that Cersei wasn't in the holding area over there because he needs to use this time to carve Loras's face.
Yeah.
And Marjorie and that's why he's like, all right, I'm not going to worry about it, because the more that Cersei delays, the worse she's going to look. I got it all. What's she going to do, leave the city? And this guy doesn't know that she's like, put the C4 underneath with the candles. Oh, so badass.
Okay, so the thing about, let's go back to the whole thing about us being hard on ourselves for being so surprised, right? Especially when this is a show of surprises and we should expect to be surprised. Look, this entire season was about how powerless Cersei was, right? And so they built that up till this very last episode. So the entire time I'm like, what's Cersei gonna do? She has no power. Her own son just turned on her. There's no way that she's gonna be able to kill all her enemies, because that's essentially what she needed to do to earn her power back. But no. Cersei will kill every single person and find a very clever way to do it to get her power back. She will do anything and she'll stop at nothing.
Isn't there like a rule that the entire cabinet can't be all in one place at one time? Like, where is that rule in King's Landing? Like, do they not have the holding area under the, what is the Red Keep for?
Well, I hear that's the beginning of the next season, where you find out that the Secretary of Labor for the Seven was actually somewhere else, and he's like, aha!
The Minister of Corn.
So let me just say about Cersei. Okay, this is a moment where I get to say I told you so. Although it was super frustrating because somebody on Twitter thought I was on the opposite side. No, I've been saying for many seasons, I've been winning with this, that Cersei is plenty smart.
Yes.
She and Jon and Matt have been opposed.
Emotional and
wild. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so she's Dick Cheney. Okay. So now she does not know all the consequences of her decisions. Dick Cheney thought, oh, we'll wrap this Iraq thing up. And he was wrong. Iraq turned out to be a gigantic mess.
Right.
But he knew how to wield power and get what he wanted. And
Cenk Uygur says Dick Cheney, very smart.
No, but he is. Of course he is. I mean, no one knew the bureaucracy and how to move the bureaucracy of the U.S. government and the politics and the media better than Dick Cheney did. And so Cersei is similar. The one other thing that unites them is they are willing to do what others are not willing to do.
Yeah.
So Dick Cheney knows, well, 100,000 people might die in Iraq, like the wildfire under the Septon or whatever. And he's like, yeah, I'm willing to do that.
Right.
And Cersei thinks,
Killed at least-
other people won't want to blow up that entire place and kill all the innocent people. Cersei's like, no problem, can do.
Right.
Now, she didn't think through all the consequences. If she had, maybe she'd have had a better security on Tommen, although who could have seen that coming? But still, yet another unintended consequence of Cersei's actions. But overall, she wins, and a hell of a lot smarter than you guys have been.
Didn't she say power is power? Who said that?
Yeah, Cersei said.
Cersei said power is power. So yeah, and similar to Cheney and that whole movement was the underlying premise that people with the most blowing up capabilities and killing power are the ones that no matter how hated you are, you're going to be feared, and that's enough.
Why was the wildfire left that whole time under? Anybody could have set that bird could have just set it off one day. That seems like a bad call. But so we have to acknowledge that not only Marge. Look, so I thought that there was a very good chance she was going to burn down the city. I'd been predicting
the entire city.
But I didn't think that Marjorie would die. So I was shocked that she died. I thought she would get out. She has all these plans. Game of Thrones doesn't usually let you die in the middle of your plans. You either fail with the plan or you succeed with the plan. But her father dies, Mace Tyrell, the guy from Oz. He died, and we have her brother dying. We have Lancel dying. Also, if you're going to do the plan, don't stab the guy so he can realize in his last moment that he's lost. That he could have possibly put it out. There was no reason to risk it.
Oh, there were 3 candles.
That was a very
I think if
cheeky
you blew,
thing to do.
I think if you blew that candle out, like the fire would bend back over and incinerate everything.
Besides which, look, they don't buy. Yes, it was a little much, and probably a little needless. But there's 3 kids that are ready to go.
Yeah, that's true.
And then put the candle back on. So
We also lost Grandmeister Pycelle, who'd been on the show since the very beginning.
Right,
He
but
just
really
gets
quickly, like
brutalized.
the frustrating thing is the difference between like Lancel, like Arya gets stabbed in the stomach like 6 times and is running around and jumping off of things.
Yeah.
And Lancel gets like a little kidney shot and he's like, oh, I must crawl now. Like, come on, there needs to be
that
some
Those
bothers
kids are
me.
strategic.
But I thought it was
maybe they got him in the right spot. You
That's
don't
true.
know.
It might be because they got him in the kidney. But no, it super bothered me that Arya was stabbed 6 times. And it's like, no big deal.
She was sliced and stabbed twice, to be fair.
Okay.
Good point. Anyways, you were talking about Pycelle.
Yeah, so Pycelle dies. I mean, he's a long-running character. He's been around since the very beginning, but he did make the mistake of going against her. And so I guess that was part of cleaning house. If you're going to blow up the Sept and kill thousands and thousands of people, who cares if you kill a Ice
She killed everyone on the small council, or whatever, the King's Council.
Yeah, Kevin Lannister.
That was against
Poor
her.
Uncle Kevin.
Well, I mean, if you think that she's bad now, imagine how much worse she's going to be in upcoming episodes or seasons, because now she really has... The only thing that made her kind of likable sometimes or lovable was the love that she had for her kids, and now she doesn't have any kids left.
Oh, great point.
Yeah, so like, what is she going to do now? I mean, I feel like in upcoming seasons, she's going to be even more ruthless because she really has no... And not only
Maybe her love for Jaime.
Maybe her love for Jaime, but that's pretty much it. I think that her Achilles heel was always her children, but now that doesn't even exist. And then think about Marjorie's grandmother.
Yeah.
I mean, she thinks she has nothing to live for at this point because everything's been taken away from her. I think that she is going to be brutal and wanting revenge because she has nothing to lose.
And just more things without all remedy should be without regard is from Macbeth. Out, brief candle.
Oh, really?
That's from Macbeth. Like all this is Macbeth shit.
It's been a long time since.
Yeah, and Anna with a great point. She's got nothing. Everybody's got nothing left to lose, and that is a combustible situation.
Yeah, dude. It's rough.
So now let's talk about whether we were satisfied with the explosion. Okay.
Oh, so great.
Looks great.
So only Game of Thrones can get you to root for Dick Cheney. As much as I despise Cersei Lannister, when she got her revenge, I was like, yeah.
Okay, so the explosion was one thing, and part of me felt guilty for being so happy and jumping up and down when it happened, but she's been through like the worst things, which is why we always make arguments against torture, because when you torture people, then all of a sudden you end up feeling sorry for someone you shouldn't feel sorry for. Right. But the most satisfying scene for me was when she had that nun and she was waterboarding the nun with wine. And my favorite line, you guys are probably going to disagree with me on this, but this was my favorite line. As she was torturing the nun, she was like, even confession feels good under the right circumstances. Yeah. And I was like, yeah.
Okay, I love that line, but no, my favorite line was, confess, you enjoyed it.
Yeah. That was so good.
And of course, you have to love the shame.
Yeah.
Oh, the shame. See, that's another reason why this episode was great.
Just
they brought back all the great lines.
Yes.
All the greatest hits in one episode. Shame on the way out. Good. The Frys and the Lannisters send their regards. The King in the North. Right, all the great lines. And so now, look, I loved the explosion, and I felt... Did I feel guilty about loving the explosion? Maybe for half a second. I did not like that Marjorie and Loras died. I couldn't believe they carved up Loras, and I was like, wow, I did not see that coming. I don't know how they're going to undo that.
Well, at least he's at his low point.
Yeah. Right. And I wish that Marjorie had somehow gotten out because she's a real player, and I would have enjoyed...
Maybe she did.
No. I would have enjoyed seeing her continue in the game, but alas, it was not to be. The Grand Maester dying, yes, a character throughout for 6 episodes, a relevant character, the 11th most consequential death of this episode.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
And Uncle Kevin, no one will mourn.
Yeah.
So, and then now on to the nun. Yes, that reversal of position is fantastic.
Zombie sex slavery.
And then she says that to her, I told you my face would be the last thing you'd see before. She says, I'm ready for the maker. I'm like, oh, no. There's been a miscommunication.
Yes.
Even before she said it, I knew there had been a miscommunication. I'm like, there's no way she lets you, the reason she's got you tied up because you ain't, today's not your day to die. Today you will have long suffering before you die. And then, of course, they had to go so over the top and then I felt bad for the nun.
The mountain.
Right,
so
they
good.
bring the mountain and you hear her screaming. You're like, man,
God.
not that much. Come on.
That one quick moment of showing the High Sparrow before he gets liquidated.
Yes.
And his palms are open, and he's kind of like, oh, fuck, she's right. And just the force the utter force with which he combusts and the green, it was so great. And that first flash of green when like Lancel is crawling and they kind of pan to the side. You know there's wildfire, but it isn't until you really see like the green leaking out of the barrel.
It starts to become more visible over time. And we see in the explosion, that's one of the shots, the literal shots from Bran's vision, is the green rushing through. So we have like 25 things that we have to get to, but Tommen commits suicide, I think fairly clearly because his mother had become so focused on power and on the city. And that's why I like that shot, is that the shot is like from her point of view. It's seeing the castle, it's seeing the city. He is tangential to it. It's not focused on him. And so he dies. And she's not surprised. She's not even that affected, at least externally. She knew it was going to happen.
What's done is done. It was,
The shot of him looking out the window was really powerful for me because you look at him and you really realize, we all knew it, but it really hits you home or hits you hard, that he's a child, you know? He's this child and he has like this certain innocence to him and he was never in power. He never had any power, you know, and it's just, you feel sorry for him.
He was alone, he had no friends, no support. He had nothing.
This all started with Jaime pushing a kid out a window.
Oh, such a great point.
Jeez,
I didn't realize that.
That's such a good point. So, unbelievably, I have 3 more points about this scene.
Okay.
One, yes, the High Sparrow, not just the ending, but that last 10 to 15 seconds of doubt. Like, oh, wait, have I miscalculated? Oh, no, I think she might be right.
And he's never doubted
before. And then that last second of like, oh, no, she was right, was so satisfying. And so that was almost better than Joffrey's death. And so now
that was pretty great.
You wanted 3 deaths really, really badly, right? You wanted Joffrey, you wanted Ramsay Bolton, and you wanted the High Sparrow. And all 3 had a wonderful, wonderful deaths. Okay, as satisfying. Because what they've done is they, of course, we're not in the real world. In the real world, all the, is vicious, terrible, and we're libs, and we're against it. But in this fantasy world, they have set it up so that we all get to feel our inner vengeance. And so that's the fantasy we get to live out here. And they play that out 100%. Like, yes, you did that vengeance fantasy better than I would have. And you blew them to smithereens. So that I loved. Tommen I didn't see coming. I really didn't. And so when he like jumped out the window, I was like, oh, there he is. Oh, no, what are you doing? Right. Grab him.
You idiot, you've killed us.
And then finally, now, last scene when she's getting crowned and Jaime's back. And I just realized that the Lannisters have both the most interesting names and the most mundane names. Uncle Kevin, Jaime.
It's so weird.
Right. Anyway, Jaime the Kingslayer is back. And he is having the same moment as Littlefinger in the north, in a corner, as everyone is celebrating, the one guy not celebrating, and with deep consternation. And I wanted to interpret that with you guys. My sense of it is, he's like, wait, what happened to Tommen? And number one, I am the one who told you, fuck everyone who isn't us. I'm not sure I meant that. Okay, that's because remember, I just remembered it myself. Because Jaime was the one who slayed the king
to stop that.
To stop that.
Yeah.
And now his lover and sister did the same exact thing. So then what was it all for?
I think that Jaime realizes that, you know, the most important thing for Cersei up until that moment was her children. And her children, she would do anything for. He even said it himself in various scenes throughout the season. And when he was standing there staring at her at the Iron Throne, what it said to me was, he's afraid of what she is willing and capable of doing. Because if she's willing and capable of doing something that impacted Tommen in the worst possible way, she might do something similar to Jaime.
And at this point, he
might
doesn't
have to
even
queenslay.
Remember, he just walked into town, and all of a sudden, she's the queen, and Tommen's dead. He doesn't even know that she didn't kill him.
Oh, that's a good point.
What is she capable of? He doesn't know anymore. If she's capable of what the Mad King was capable of.
And what's she going to say? Like, it wasn't so bad. He jumped out the window. I didn't incinerate him. I just left him unattended. He was an unaccompanied minor flying.
She's, by the way, now become the Mad Queen.
Yeah,
exactly.
Oh,
and I got to give credit to whoever designed her outfit, the new outfit with the shoulder armor. It is the show. I want to go back and go do like the 20 best outfits or something. I'm gonna be Joan Rivers, but that's maybe number 1 right there. That's so amazing, the texture and everything, and it's so austere and so like I want the wife from
me here.
House.
That's
Exactly.
Lady Macbeth. Unsex me here. She doesn't want to be a woman
She did
anymore.
it.
She wants to
She's
have
always
no
had
gender.
the armor, but now it's literal armor on
She
her.
looks like a
Yeah.
dude. She's
She
got the
looks
short hair.
Great. It's a great
And
job.
her neck is so long. Like in that outfit, I'm just like, damn. She just looks
Yeah.
powerful.
So then, consequence scene, we have Lady Olenna meeting, because people in this world now travel at the speed of light when they want to, down in Dorne. Thankfully, a short Dorne scene. We only have a little bit of it. I love that she cuts off all the sand snakes, including the hot one. And now Varys comes. We know, well, first of all, we know what Cersei's plan was. It was the wildfire. And now we know what Varys' plan was. It was to ally Daenerys with the Tyrells and the Martells. And that's pretty much every soldier in the continent, so I don't know who's going to be fighting against them.
Exactly. So now Daenerys has everything. So when Varys showed up in Dorne, that was my 8th yes of the episode.
Fire and blood.
So she now...
Which is another callback line with fire and blood.
Right, that's right.
Yeah.
So Daenerys has 3 dragons, the entire Dothraki horde, the Unsullied, the Ironborn, the Tyrells, which are actually the most powerful army in the 7 Kingdoms, and the Martells.
And fresh. The Tyrells, have they been fighting at all?
Yeah. Oh,
Only
yeah.
They just-
no, not even really.
like
Tyrells
that-
fought
everyone's-
at Siege.
Tyrells fought at Blackwater.
Okay.
But that was a little bit because they came in at the end like the Knights of the Vale. And the Martells haven't fought at all. So they're super fresh.
Yeah.
So you think, okay, yeah, where's the contest? Where's the question? They're going to roll over everybody. Okay, yes, they might roll over the Lannisters and everyone in between and the Freys who no longer exist in another scene we'll get to. But they're going to run into the North. And in the North, Jon is somewhat real, but they would roll over him too if they were opposed to him. But by the time they get to the North, they will not be opposed to him.
Yeah.
And then they will have the real Song of Fire and Ice.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah,
Good
and
God.
that will be the White Walkers versus the greatest army ever built.
Well, and by the way, I would imagine that it's not impossible that Littlefinger takes the Vale and allies with Cersei again, because he just lost one of his big avenues. And the Lannisters still have an army, so that's something. Really fast scene, we have Sam going down and beginning his training as a maester. Great shot of Old Town. And the really awkward scene with the bookish guy, I like that. But when he walks into the library and he reveals, somebody sent me a GIF from Beauty and the Beast where she sees the library for the first time. And what I like about that scene is you very rarely have just wonder that isn't horrifying. And he's just so happy to be alive.
Yeah.
We don't get a lot of that in Game of Thrones.
Yeah. I just remembered in the first season, I had given everyone on the Young Turks a character. It's from a million years ago.
I remember.
And amazingly, through all the deaths, a lot of us have not died, except Jon just died.
I just died, yeah.
He
Who
was,
were you?
He was Loras Tyrell. And no, because look, it's actually a great compliment because he was the best fighter in the land. Remember, he won the King's Tournament.
Right.
He was the #1 fighter in the world, and he just died.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, John.
Well, actually, ironically, in a totally different situation, he was terribly burned in the books.
Oh, is that
But
right?
he survived.
Okay.
Anyway, okay, so we had that little scene, not hugely consequential. Gilly, I like her new look.
Yeah,
then, Of course,
Gilly
we have,
looking good.
she's looking good.
Skins era Gilly.
There you go.
Actually, she was
We
really
have
young
2
then.
scenes at the Twins. So we have Bronn and Jaime talking about how you get women, which is great. They have the meaningful look with the beautiful serving girl. And Jaime had a great scene with the head of the Freys, where he's talking about, why do we even need you?
Yeah.
So good.
I know, that was great, but at the same time, because of Game of Thrones, I'm like, Jaime, it's Walder Frey. He'll cut your throat in the middle of the night.
Yeah,
Don't take
yeah.
any chances. Why are
Yeah.
you taking
Yeah.
chances for just a couple of zingers? There's just no need.
Maybe
does
he
re-
feels like he doesn't have anything to live for anymore.
Yeah.
It reinforces your point too. Yeah, just like fuck this shit. I'm going home. I'm gonna go to my girlfriend's sister.
Yeah.
Right.
But overall, out of an episode that was just filled with the plot rushing forward and great surprises, stuff that I wouldn't have expected, when they do the pie, when she goes to pull the thing off, I was yelling, screaming. We were watching it together. I did not see that coming, that it was Arya.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Neither
I
did
thought
I.
I was like
Fucking
super smart. I was
awesome.
like, that's a Dornish assassin.
Yeah, it's a
like it's a
Dornish
hot,
woman, or
kind
it's
of
a
dark-skinned
Stark,
chick.
or-
Yeah.
She's gonna kill him on behalf of
She's a
Martells.
Tully or something.
And then I was like, I was like, no, this is way better. Those guys should write the show.
By the way, that scene, I mean, I guess you could argue that Arya has gradually lost her innocence throughout the seasons, but that was the culmination of it, right? Because she had never killed someone so ruthlessly before, and there was still like this lovable child side to her, and that's completely gone. Now she's just as ruthless as Cersei, if you ask me, yeah.
Yeah, she was the kind of person who was like, wouldn't it be amazing to be a knight?
Yeah.
I could kill people and swing swords around. And now it's just like, I'm going to stab you in the throat now.
Yeah, and I'm going to feed you your son.
And I'll smile, but it'll be like a really evil smile.
It was a Wednesday Addams smile.
It's one of John's fictional movies. Love the most.
Yeah, it is.
To Anna's point, she said the last thing you'll see is my smiling face.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm really enjoying this.
Yeah.
And I'm with you guys. I didn't see that coming. We should have seen it coming, but we didn't. I thought that she was a Lannister assassin. We all knew that, that Walder Frey's in a lot of trouble when it's just those two. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, why? I thought she was just going to go, the Lannister send their regards, right? But no, and I'm like, and when she kept saying they're here about the sons, I was like, I don't get it. Where are they?
Yeah.
I'm like, has Walder Frey lost his mind? What's happening
that's what I
here?
No, I was like, this is Titus Andronicus. This is, you're going to eat your kids in a pie.
Did he actually eat some? He ate some, right?
There was some pie missing.
Yeah, he didn't.
Apparently the part without the toe. Yeah. That would have been great. Even.
Oh, was that a toe?
That was a toe sticking out.
By the way, I have to make one more point about this whole scene. Look, for all the crap the Starks get, keep in mind that all the children are still alive, right? Like,
not all of them, but a lot of them.
A lot of them. A lot of the main
exactly.
players, yeah.
Robb.
Exactly.
Rickon and Robb are dead. But
Yeah.
yes.
But you still have, like, I really did not think that Sansa would be alive at this point. I didn't know if Arya would survive. You know what I mean? And,
That's so true. Sansa is the most improbably alive person in Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
So as Jon is sitting there with an empty banquets table where they used to have such joy and innocence, now half the family has been wiped out. Ned's gone. Their mom is gone. Rickon and Robb are gone. But Sansa, Jon Snow, Arya, and Bran, not only are they there, they're all super relevant players.
Yeah. Yep.
And just like the arc of these whole 6 seasons, the Starks are back.
Yeah.
And that's why in that great scene, has there ever been a better unfurling than when they lowered the Stark banner and it goes boom, boom, right? That is the best. It can't be beat. How is an unfurling ever going to beat that?
It was like a top 5 unfurling.
Don't even bother unfurling.
Like, Laker championship banner. I don't know.
Yeah. And so to have them back at Winterfell and have it be somewhat empty, but it's still some half
them.
Yeah.
And by the way, you can look at it either way if you're a pessimist or optimist. Winterfell half full or half empty.
Yeah.
And so in yet another scene that it was so powerful, and even though it got lost in the shuffle a little bit, them being happy that winter is finally there, and just like Dad always said, he was right.
What he said.
And it made you feel nostalgic, and like in some way, it made me think of Christmas at home.
Yeah, the snow coming down on them.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I'd be warm inside the house and know that Dad was always right.
Aww.
I definitely thought they were gonna kiss.
Yeah.
Really?
I did.
They had a long moment. Remember,
Remember, she's a redhead.
Right.
By the way,
and he knows how to use his. Anyway.
she doesn't
that is
seem
true. That's sad.
completely trusting of him. Like, I think there was that scene where, all these people stood up and said that they were gonna, they wanted Jon Snow to be their leader, right? She didn't seem too happy or excited about that. She seems like maybe it's because she's been through so much. She doesn't seem like she fully trusts him or fully believes in him being the leader.
That's not how I perceived it, and everybody perceives it different. Like Jaime's look is, what did that mean in case of Sansa? In the case of Sansa, I perceived it as they set up a little bit of a drama there as to whether she was in favor of that move or not, like they did with the Ironborn vote, where you're like, wait, which way is Theon going to go? And then he ultimately does back his sister. So here there was a little bit of, like, I'm trying to read Sansa's face as they're doing it. I'm like, wait, is she in favor or against it? And then I got a sense that, my sense was that she was clearly in favor of it because she seemed satisfied. One of the reasons she was satisfied is she gets that it thwarts Littlefinger's plan because
that's right.
Right, because Littlefinger wants her to be the queen so he can marry her, and so then he has all of the North, and that was his plan. But for a second, she forgot it, and so you could tell that she was happy about how things went down because when she sees Littlefinger, she becomes unhappy.
Yeah.
And she goes, "Oh right, damn it, he's coming for us."
And he totally laid bare, like we'd always assumed that was where he wanted to end up. We knew he wanted power, but to say that he literally wants to end up on the throne.
Didn't he
and with
say
her,
that? Isn't there a scene
Maybe
where
he did, I
he and
don't remember.
Varys are standing next to each other and he's looking at the throne room and he's at the throne itself in like the first episode. He's like, I want what everyone wants, power. And he like looks at, and I always thought
but he never said, I'm going to literally be the king.
But I always thought, so I felt a little vindicated. I was like, I think on the show once I was like, he wants to be king.
Yeah.
By
And
the
that's-
way, maybe I misunderstood something. So is Jon Snow really Ned Stark's son? Because
No.
that's not what it
No.
seems like, right?
No,
so
that's
it's
pretty
is
much-
it Robert Baratheon's son?
No.
Wait, just super, because that's
Yeah.
the next scene. But also, Lady Mormont's speech to rally all of them to John was great. Just one of the all-time best inspirational speeches.
Oh, I mean, before we move on, that was, of all the 1,000 wonderful things in this episode, still my favorite. Because it doesn't get better than, I'm like, oh, take out the sword, do it. Because you know it's coming. When the first guy stands up
Admitting
after Lady
he was
Mormont's
wrong.
speech,
What
right? And then finally he gives you that release. Takes out the sword and goes, to the King of the North! I was like, yes!
What a
Like,
northerner.
I jumped out of my seat. And then I'm like, okay, now give me the rest. Give me the rest. Right? To the King of the North! To the King of the North!
We established last night, if two people say you're the king of the North, everybody in the room is obligated to say you're king of the North.
All right, I'm not happy about it, but seems to be like we're in the north. It's such a northern cheer though, because like in the south it'll be like 2, 4, 6, 8. Who do we, coronate? You. And in the north it's just like we'll just say the same thing over and over again.
We've been saying it for 1,000 years.
King of the North. What rhymes with King of the North? King of the North. That's it.
They're
So then-
unimaginative people.
We do have Bran finally finishing the Tower of Joy. We waited until like almost the last minute. And so they reveal that Ned rushes up there and Lyanna Stark is laying in bed and she reveals, you have to listen very close to hear, but she's saying you have to hide him or Robert will kill him.
Right.
So it's Rhaegar Targaryen who had kidnapped her and impregnated her.
Launched
and now
the
they
war.
had to hide the origin of the kid or else Robert, since it's a Targaryen bastard, would have killed it.
So, in fact, he is a bit of a Stark, but he's more of a
half Stark.
Targaryen.
Yeah,
Right.
he's halvesies.
Because
Female side Stark.
his father's a Targaryen.
Yeah.
So, but which is really cool. So when Daenerys and him meet up to fight the White Walkers, they are actually related.
Yeah.
Okay.
She is his aunt.
And Bran's like, is the one who knows this and who's gonna be like crawling and be like, hold on. Okay, you two don't fight because you're related.
Yeah.
You're both Targaryens, and he's a Stark, and we're all cool, and that'll be the final alliance.
Okay,
Before the
okay.
White Walkers. So that's something that I had just like in one of these episodes as we're talking it through about 2 seasons ago. I was like, wait, I got it, right? And I was like, he's Rhaegar's son and Lyanna's thing, but I'm like, because I kept what was gnawing at me for all of these seasons, for the whole 6 seasons, was Ned Stark doesn't sleep with a hooker.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is not who
Yeah,
Ned Stark is.
that was very
Right.
strange. And then would Catelyn be as cool as it, if it was really his like love child? Would she be like, yeah, come chill with us?
see,
Well,
I
that's Jon
think-
Snow. That's
I
think,
know.
Catelyn
Oh, she
hated
didn't
Jon.
know.
She always
him.
hated Jon.
I thought that she knew.
No,
she hated
that's
Jon.
so
Okay.
Ned.
Jon,
Yeah.
And if there was a show called That's So Ned instead of That's So Raven, That's So Ned would be someone who keeps this secret from his wife,
wow,
from
okay.
everyone, because he said he would. And
Yeah,
he
she
kept
says the
it from
promise.
the kid, and who else knows this?
Right.
Who else? I mean,
both for honor and for Jon Snow's safety, because he would have been in massive, massive peril if anyone found out he was a Targaryen.
right.
Which is why the end of that scene that they didn't show you is all the more tragic, where Ned, to help keep the secret, had to kill those 2 women who were helping out Lyanna Stark.
Sorry.
Presumably. Because they were witnesses.
So now, when I came up with that theory, I think John was on that particular review, and since he's read the books, I mean, I don't know that we ever found out in the books to this point, but it seemed like you already knew that theory because that was
I knew the theory. It's
because
just a
that
theory.
theory existed before
So
I
someone had
before I
online.
figured it out.
Yeah.
And so I felt like there was like a moment of like,
early
And I was
on,
like, oh, I think I'm right. I think I'm right.
No,
early
just
on in the
that was
show.
a theory. We haven't gotten that far.
Yeah, early on in the show, there is, I forget who it was, but some people are sitting there having that conversation, being like, I think it's Littlefinger, but it's someone sitting there going like, Ned Stark goes whoring. I don't think so. So it was out there. And for those online who have been like tactfully avoiding spoilers, the code is R plus L equals J.
Yeah.
So if anyone's seen that, because I'd seen that, I'm like, all right, that seemed to be a formula. And as I went back, I kind of can't stay away.
Rhaegar equals Jon.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the great dissolve from the little baby's face to him.
It was so great. It was so awesome.
Part of another release that they gave us.
Yeah, and just one more, that's something we've been waiting years to find out, and that was just one of the things that we got at that point. And the one other big storyline is obviously Daenerys. The season ended exactly like I hoped it would end, with literal shots of dragons flying over boats as they head out.
That's right. You had literally asked for that.
That's what I was hoping for.
Yes.
So she decides to leave the Second Sons. So I had worried that she would simply be like, okay, Marine, I'm out, I'm gone, headed to Westeros. But she's not. She's leaving someone, basically military occupation, to transition into democracy or their own leaders. She makes, as you said in your review, the wise decision to leave her lover behind. She doesn't pull a Robb Stark.
That's smart.
And now she has like 200 ships. It was shocking how many ships were in that wide shot that they did.
Right. I tried to count. I did like this much was 20, and it's tons,
crazy
and
amount.
it goes off the shot.
It just goes off the shot. And knowing what I don't know what direction they're sailing in, so I don't know if they're headed to Casterly Rock or if they're headed to Dorne. But it's a great way to end it, that you've been waiting since episode 1 for her to head to Westeros. And it's finally happening.
Right. And Varys was there to, if they don't land in Dorne, say, all right, here's what we're going to do. This is how you go and when.
Yeah.
But
by the way, Dorne and Marine, I think, are almost literally on opposite sides of the globe. And so he got to Dorne and then back to Marine. They have weird timing.
Yeah.
So
Which just shows that maybe that's enough time for Euron to have built a fleet.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
So the only tiny little glitch in this entire episode was Varys' transporter. Yeah, that was definitely a little annoying. Like, okay, that was some pretty quick movement there.
Exactly.
I wish he wasn't on the boat. They didn't need him on the boat.
They didn't need him on the boat.
It was gratuitous. So so what? Okay,
Small
tiny
thing,
little
thing, and it's
I think they needed to be
100th
like,
example of that.
someone he got back to say, I did it.
And,
Because someone needs to send that email, and
Right.
he did it with his body.
and Daenerys letting go of her love, unlike Robb Stark, is not an accident either. They planned that out. So this game to be a contrast for here's what a real leader does. They don't sacrifice everyone else for their love, and that's what the whole point of being a leader is. And I'm going to make you've been making a lot of, Brett's been making a lot of good analogies to Macbeth, Shakespeare, etc. And I don't think they intended this, but it reminded me of Midnight's Children, which is actually my favorite book. It's Salman Rushdie's book. And there were so many symbols within symbols. It was I'm like, how could a human have written this? It is so brilliant. And in Game of Thrones, with the Tommen out the window, like you were saying, with her being the Mad Queen and blowing it up, and the Kingslayer had killed the king, for all those layers on top of layers, and her not doing what Robb Stark did. It was so brilliantly put together.
Yeah.
And then in that scene, another one of those where she takes out the pin and says, "Will you be the hand of the queen?" And Tyrion was nearly crying. I was nearly crying.
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, he's back! He's back to being the hand of the ruler, and hand of the king is such a cool thing." And by the way, the hand of the king just blew up. That was Uncle Kevin.
Yeah.
There's
Job's open.
all power now originates with women.
Yes.
It is women who have either attained the titles or passed on it to Jon Snow.
Yeah.
Or taken a dagger and given it to the Night's King. There's the thing, or been like,
That's true.
Or Lady Mormont being like, I'm technically a little bitch, but y'all are being a bunch of little bitches.
Yeah, that's a sign of how chaotic the world is. We need to fix things and get back to the old way.
It's hysterical.
Yeah, the Lady Mormont speech was so wonderful. The only thing was missing was I thought she was going to say, you didn't show up, You guys are bitching about the wildlings. At least they showed up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Fuck you. You're cool. Wildlings, you're cool.
That's a really interesting contrast too to the scene with Gilly where she wasn't allowed to enter the library, right? Where it's like no women and children. It's like, well, you think we're dumb, but
So that's such a great point
fucking
because
skank your
Lady
ass.
Mormont's both a woman and a child.
Yeah.
And look at her power.
Yeah.
So the old ways were no women and children. The new ways are all women and children are now. It's role reversal and justice on top of justice.
Yeah.
Last thing I want to say about the scene that you talked about with Tyrion, what I loved about that is every character has been on this long arc to become what they want to be. Maybe it's not the same, like Arya wanted to be a fighter involved in all this stuff, but it's not exactly what she thought it would be. But Tyrion has been a smart guy. He obviously has a lot of respect for his own abilities, but he's always gotten by with the money and the name of his family. Like even when he became Hand of the King, that was just given to him by his father. He's like, just go take care of that, whatever. But she says, like, I value your counsel, and he pledges it, and he's shown that he can be loyal. He shows that he can deliver, and so she gives it to him. It's purely based on his talent and what he's done for her.
Right.
He's actually earned it. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter that he's a Lannister. She obviously hates that he's a Lannister. That's working against him. And that's why I think he tears up, is because he wants to be respected for what he can actually do, and he finally feels it with a woman that he believes in.
Right,
It's
and
amazing.
what great management from her. Like that's management. That's good management. Is like,
Yeah.
so I will give you a task that caters to your strengths and how you define value in yourself.
Yeah.
And that just flourished. And yeah, it was a little touchy when she got back and everyone was trying to kill him. But he was like, I kept the peace for like 6 minutes.
Yeah.
I did my best.
And the cool thing about getting that is getting the pin almost certainly comes next season with a dragon, I would imagine.
Yeah, mm-hmm.
That's
It's a
exciting.
starter.
Because remember the whole thing of him talking to the dragons, which never got to a resolution.
Yeah.
They didn't have him go and try to free the dragons and talk to the dragons and train his dragon and not ride one eventually.
Yeah.
And then it made me wonder who is going to be Cersei's Hand of the King. You would imagine it's going to be Jaime, and
Well, he sucks.
Hand of the king.
and then you will have. Oh, that's funny. The non-hand of the king.
The stump of the king.
No, the invisible hand of the king.
There you go.
And so then you will have two Hand of the King and Queen, and they're brothers.
Yep.
And then they'll have to fight, and that's next season, and that is going to be amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, the sad thing, though, is 40 weeks. 40
know.
weeks. we
I
have
know,
to wait.
but if you're
So
gonna
biblical.
wait 300 days, at least they gave you 300 days of satisfaction with this
Yeah.
episode.
Yeah.
Like you could look back and go, oh yeah, all right.
And we can always rewatch it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always a rough wait, but now we have 6 seasons. I mean, I think literally if you do one a week, you can now get all the way through to the next year if you want to. And I know that we started doing our reviews years ago on season 3. Many people want us to do seasons 1 and 2, so feel free to continue putting pressure on us, and maybe we'll actually get around to doing it this time. We said we would last time. We'll see about this time. But thank you for joining me, guys. It's been a great year, fun reviews. It's good to finally have you back on the reviews. It feels like old times again.
You know
know.
why? Daenerys has ridden back to Westeros.
Yes. So yes, stay tuned for the Game of the Throne next year. What the Flick will of course be doing our reviews, and we will see you then.
To the King of the North!
King of the North.